everyone, it's Stephanie.
This is Emily.
And today we're back with our horoscope book series. We are dealing with Scorpios this month. So we want to talk about their characteristics.
So Scorpio is always a really interesting mix. For me, I think they're at the same time, they're really outwardly impassionate, but inwardly they're like the most passionate type of people you can meet. Like when they're committed to something, they will legitimately give their life to that. I honestly, sincerely believe it because I've seen them at it.
Yeah.
And then it's very hard to, like, they're very stubborn in their own unique way, in the sense that, like, if they're onto something, it would take basically an earthquake, tsunami, and any other natural disaster to really convince them to go the other way, even if they're wrong. And so it's really hard, I think, to really classify them as one or the other. I would say that they're very passionate, and they're very much a paradox of like elements that are complete opposites of each other. So I think as as like a personality thing, it's just more that, like, at the same time they're happy, they're also very, like, not unhappy, but very sober and like somber. Like they're very serious as well, but also somewhat funny in their own way. And it's really hard to describe them, which is probably the point.
Yeah, so right before we started this video, she was like, oh, you know, like, I was thinking about this guy that's like a good, like, you know, a guy I've known for like 5-6 years now. And then every time she kept talking about it, I was like, yeah, that sounds exactly like this person I know. I'm not gonna name names here, but you know who you are.
Also, in a lot of ways, my friend, one friend, as well as my mom is also a Scorpio, so I have a certain understanding of, like, a little bit of, like, how they work and do not work.
Yeah, now that you talk about it, I'm like, that sounds exactly like this person.
Okay.
So
Cool.
for my pick, I picked a paranormal urban fantasy book called Karma by Nadine Nightingale. It's basically about a girl called Amanda and a guy called Alex. And Amanda is a witch. Alex is a witch hunter. And somehow they met when she did not tell him that she was a witch. And they had this whole fling and whatnot, and then I guess he found out, and now he hates her. But now he's back and asking for her help because, you know, he needs her help to find his brother. So this whole story goes along with, you know, how they, like, had this, like, sexual tension going on because they clearly were really into each other before, you know, he found out that she was his, like, arch nemesis basically, and she was, like, very hurt by the whole situation, but she also knew that he was her arch nemesis. So it was a very interesting ordeal. And the reason why I picked this book was because they're so stubborn. They're both so stubborn. Like, it's clear how much they liked each other, but they were on principle, but they react. But then they were like, no, like, we hate each other, and, like, they kept trying to kill each other. Like, or, like, he tried to kill her because he's, like, a witch hunter.
Yeah.
She was just trying to be like, you know, let me just leave and, like, just not deal with this whole situation. But yeah, I feel like, and like you said about how, like, you need a tsunami and, like, a natural disaster to prove that they're wrong. I was like, yeah, that sounds exactly like those two, because, like, they would not admit to each other their feelings, you know. And, like, it wasn't until, like, the really end when, like, all this, like, death and, like, whatever situation, you know, like a natural disaster.
Or man-made disaster.
Exactly. They were like, oh no, this is how I really feel for you. So that's why I picked this book.
Yeah, it's like they have, I would say Scorpios have some sort of weird opposition towards, like, feelings, like romance, even though that's exactly what they seek their entire lives. So I would say, yeah, that pretty much sums it up for me. I think that's a good pick. For my pick, I actually went with more of a nonfiction pick. I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F by Mark Manson. So it's actually my advice to Scorpios. Please read it. Because seriously, like, there's so many little things out there that are really not that big of a deal. And things that, like, I think a part of being a Scorpio is that you really have this idealized vision for your life, and they want it. And you know what's really funny is that they end up really getting it because they want it more than anyone else. So they're really willing to work hard and sacrifice for it. But at the same time, it's also don't lose your friends and like everything else along with it in order for your mission too. And I think that's, again, like I told you, like my idea of what a Scorpio is that they're kind of in opposition with the exact thing that they want in their life. Like the one thing they want is the one thing that they keep on rejecting. So for me, I think the book itself details a lot of like why it's okay to like it's actually easier to succeed if you stop caring more about like things that don't really matter. I mean, that sounds like the usual generic, but the way that the guy goes about writing it actually helps you sort of, it's like through exercises, and you really are like, oh yeah, that's actually really true, and this is funny because of the way he writes it. It's like, don't give an F, don't do this, so like it's totally fine if you don't give an S about this, you know.
F.
Like no, don't like actual shit.
Oh,
like
okay.
as about this, and then like, and it's just like he says that there's like anecdotes about how like this one mailman, right? Because this actually speaks a lot to my struggle as like someone who's still trying to write something. This mailman, he basically was a drunkard. He like didn't do anything with his life for like a good half of like an average person's lifespan, for like from 0 to 40. He was just like a loser basically, right? And so he ended up writing this story about another loser himself, you know, in terms of a character. And he just decided, yeah, I'll just get it published. Like he wrote this book eventually, and then he got it published, and it ended up being this huge phenomenon. And when people asked him like, how did you end up getting this inspiration or whatever, he's just like, I am who I am. It just happened, you know. Like, and the thing is that like he ended up writing about like there's a lot of people who want to write something, want to do something, but they actually ended up not doing it just because they gave too much an F about it. It's like a lot of things that come with going for a goal is that you have to stop caring, or you let go at least of the things that don't matter as much to you. And but often the cautionary tale behind that is also like, don't give up like your friends completely. Like you don't give up the wrong things, you know, for the sake of like what you think at the time was supposedly things you wanted, right? So right and wrong, again, this book does not to dictate that for you, so you have to kind of figure that out yourself, which is why it's a good like self-help like book. But that's at least like my pick for Scorpios because
they need some self-help.
I mean, I read it too, so I needed self-help, right? So it's not really like
but it's just funny how you're like recommending it.
I am recommending it because from what I know, it's just that they're so passionate, and I definitely admire them for that like intensity, but at the same time just like chill.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like it's okay that you're not perfect, you know, like it's all right.
They're very far from perfect.
They're very far from perfect. Well, I mean, we both struggle with our own various issues of perfection.
Very far from perfect.
Yeah, so it's just like a good book to keep on the bookshelf and be like, okay, yeah, sometimes, you know, as like a reminder.
All right, well, those are our 2 picks. Very drastically different.
Yours is more of a story. Mine's just more like, I just read it recently. I thought it was really helpful, and I'm going to recommend it also probably for another video because I was just like, this is great.
Yeah. So anyways, that's it for today. We do also have Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, so do follow us on there, as well as a podcast with curated videos. But
yeah, and definitely make sure to comment down below for any of our suggestions, and subscribe to us because we do have book related content every week.
Yep, that's it for today. Thank you
guys.
guys.
Bye.